You're not addicted to what you think you're addicted to. It's not the last cigarette at the end of the day, not the drink before bed, not that compulsive urge to check your phone moments after you just set it down. Know what you're truly addicted to. It is escaping yourself. You can feel it, can't you? In those quiet moments right before you tell yourself just one more scroll, just 5 more minutes, or just this once, something inside you begins to stir. A distant, almost ancient knocking from within, unsettling, persistent, impossible to ignore. That is what Carl Jung called the shadow. An addiction is not your failure. It is a signal, a cry from the shadow, a part of your soul that was once abandoned, now demanding to be seen. Jung once wrote, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul." We live in a society optimized for distraction, social media, endless entertainment, instant food, quick fixes. We believe we are choosing, but we are being led. You are not lazy. You are not weak. You are being moved by a part of your psyche you've never truly met. Your shadow may take many shapes: a yearning to be loved masked by empty sexual encounters, a fear of failure hidden beneath relentless procrastination, a need for recognition swallowed by comparison and envy. Craving does not come from the outside. It echoes from the deepest part of you, the part you left behind long ago. Imagine this. Every time you feel that surge of craving, it is not temptation. It is a message, a whisper from your inner child, the one who once felt unseen, unloved, not enough. And now it returns as smoke, as a scroll, as a sip, saying, "See me." Jung believed the shadow is not something to destroy. It is something to understand, to integrate. If you dare to face your craving without running, without judgment, you will begin to see what it's truly pointing to. A wound still unhealed, a dream long forgotten, a self still waiting to be acknowledged. Healing does not begin with resistance. It begins when you pause and listen. You are now standing at the most sacred threshold of this journey to decode the message inside your addiction. Together with Jung, we will explore how every addictive act is a soulless ritual begging for new meaning. Why craving is not the enemy, but raw energy awaiting transformation. And how to replace the old rituals with sacred ones, rituals that honor who you are becoming. If you've ever felt defeated by relapse, if you've ever shamed yourself for being too weak, if you've tried control and failed, then perhaps it's time to listen. Because buried deep beneath addiction lies the key to your freedom. Are you ready to cross the threshold? In the next chapter, we will begin the dialogue with your shadow and uncover your true self through every wave of craving. There is an addiction that is rarely called by its true name. It doesn't smell like cigarettes, it leaves no needle marks, and no one stares at you when you walk into a meeting. In fact, society praises it. It's called professionalism, ambition, resilience. But inside it's hollow. Carl Jung called it addiction to control, addiction to an ideal self-image, an addiction to the feeling of being good enough. Something you always feel you're close to reaching, yet never actually attain. Addiction as an unconscious ritual. When Jung studied ancient rituals, he discovered that every obsessive, repetitive behavior is the soul's way of expressing what has not yet been seen. Addiction isn't just about craving drugs, alcohol, or dopamine. It's a ritual, an unconscious one, that we perform every time a true emotion becomes too painful to bear. Imagine this: a new mother unable to speak out about the emptiness she feels. Every night she scrolls through Instagram for hours searching for pictures of perfect moms. No one calls her addicted, but she's addicted to not feeling like a failure. Or a young man who works until midnight every day. He doesn't drink, doesn't party, doesn't neglect his duties, but deep down he's addicted to the feeling of not being useless because subconsciously, he's still the little boy who was never good enough for his father. That's addiction, but no one names it as such. Perfectionism, the shadow disguised as light. Jung believed that every blinding light exists to conceal an inner darkness. Perfectionists are often children who had to be perfect in order to be loved. As adults, they can't relax. Outwardly, they seem in control. Inside, they live in fear of being exposed as not enough. Perfectionism is a sophisticated addiction. It gives the illusion of control, but it's actually a fear of being seen as we truly are. Have you ever delayed sending an email just because it wasn't perfect yet? Ever felt exhausted because you didn't allow yourself to make mistakes? That's not a personality trait. It's a wound turned into a system. Workaholism, not driven by passion, but by the fear of emptiness. You work nonstop, not because you love your job, but because every time you stop, a void appears. A feeling of emptiness, of meaningless existence, of not knowing who you are without being busy. Jung might say, you're not the one working. Your shadow is working through you. You've merged your identity with productivity, where being busy has become a new religion. Meanwhile, your soul is starving. There's no joy left, only deadlines. The busier you are, the more valuable you feel. But beneath that is a question you have never dared ask. Who am I if I do nothing? Shadow is not the enemy. It's the part you've rejected. Carl Jung never viewed the shadow as evil. He said, the shadow is only frightening when you refuse to look at it. Every addiction is a desperate attempt by your shadow to be heard. You can't quit cravings with discipline, but you can turn cravings into doorways to dialogue with your darkness. Next time you feel a familiar urge rising, try this. Instead of reacting, take a breath and ask, what feeling am I trying to escape? Write this down. If this craving could speak, what would it want me to see? That's the first step, turning addiction into a teacher rather than a tyrant. One of the greatest illusions of any addict, visible or not, is isolation. You think I'm the only one like this, but the truth is thousands, even millions, are silently struggling. Leave a comment below, not to complain, but to speak what you once feared to say. That itself is a sacred ritual of truth. You can write, I work so much I no longer know what I feel. I've never felt good enough, so I always do double what others do. Every time I'm alone, I try to run from the emptiness inside. We don't need solutions right away. We just need the courage to speak truthfully. And from truth, healing will find its way. In the next part, we won't talk about discipline. We'll talk about ritual. You'll learn how to replace unconscious rituals, cravings with meaningful ones, where you are seen not because you do well, but because you are real. You'll be guided through how to create a pause moment when cravings come, how to journal in dialogue with your shadow using Jung's symbolic language, and how to build a personal ritual, no religion or belief required, just honesty. Question for you today. What are you addicted to that no one has ever called by name? Share your experience below. Who knows, you might be the answer to someone else's silent suffering. The law of the shadow, dialoguing with the self we abandoned. There's a truth few dare to face. Most of what you're fighting in life is yourself. You're not really battling cigarettes, alcohol, your phone, or procrastination. You're fighting a part of yourself that was once abandoned. Carl Jung called this the shadow, and he didn't just speak theoretically, he lived it, dreamt it, and documented this journey within his own psyche, especially in the Red Book. Dialoguing with the shadow, not a concept, but an act. If you've heard of shadow work, you might think it's a psychological technique, a journaling exercise, or an expensive therapy class. But to Jung, shadow work is a living ritual. Every daily behavior is an opportunity to meet again with the part of you that was once denied. For example, you're triggered when someone disrespects your time. You get angry, you feel like cutting ties. But instead of reacting, you pause and ask, what part of me is this touching? Maybe you were once a child whose emotions were never valued. Every time you spoke up, you were mocked. And now that same part is surfacing when you feel unheard. When addiction or intense emotion arises, don't suppress it. See it as a summoning from the shadow, a symbol from a dream. The faceless man. In the Red Book, Jung recounts a strange dream. He enters an old house, and in the basement is a man without a face. Jung calls him the shadow, the one exiled from light. That dream reflects something we've all experienced, a part of ourselves so deeply hidden we've forgotten its face. When you're addicted to something, when you lose control, ask yourself, what part of me am I trying not to look at? It could be a fear of failure, a longing to be accepted without pretending to be strong, a helplessness from childhood that was never comforted. Shadow isn't something you find, it's something you dare to invite in. Concrete practices, writing, dialoguing, small rituals. Start with something simple, but don't underestimate its power. Journal from the shadow's perspective. Ask, what do you want from me? Then respond as if that shadow part were writing. You might be surprised by what you read. You might cry. That's good. Tears are the language of shadows melting. 1-minute ritual a day. Every time a craving arises, pause. Don't use discipline to suppress. Use curiosity to listen. Ask, what energy is in this craving? What action does it want to become? For example, a craving for a cigarette. Take 3 deep breaths. Write the truest sentence on your mind. Draw a dream that haunted you. You don't need artistic skill. Drawing from the subconscious gives the shadow a shape, and from there you can dialogue with it. Real example, craving as a ritual, missing the divine. Emma, a 34-year-old designer, shared, every night she scrolled social media for 2 hours without knowing why. She wasn't happy or sad, just empty. After practicing a shadow work, she realized she had always been compared to her sister by their mother. Each night of scrolling wasn't for entertainment, but for the feeling of being enough. So she changed the ritual each evening. Instead of reaching for her phone, she wrote 3 kind things she did that day, even tiny ones. She didn't eliminate the craving entirely, but now it had meaning, and she no longer hated herself afterward. That's shadow work, turning unconscious behavior into meaningful ritual. Have you had a recurring dream? Have you ever felt an unexplainable emptiness? Have you ever asked, why do I keep doing what I know is bad for me? Share one such moment in the comments, not to get fixed, but to let the truth exist. Writing it out is the first act of no longer isolating from your shadow. And when you write, you'll see you're not the only one. In the next part, we'll no longer try to escape cravings. We'll learn how to use their energy to rebuild ourselves. Craving becomes fuel. Addiction becomes a compass. And you become the alchemist of your inner world. Today's question for you: have you had a dream or behavior that repeats when you can't explain? Write it down. It might be the first message from a part of you forgotten for far too long. There is a kind of knowledge that doesn't come from books nor from others. It only emerges when you dare to sit down and have a conversation with yourself. Not the you on your resume or social media, but the forgotten self, the soul stifled under countless masks. Carl Jung called this process, inner dialogue, a sacred ritual, not meant for the hurried. But for those struggling with addiction, especially the invisible kinds, like the craving for validation, escaping loneliness, or fearing failure, this is the torch that lights the way through the maze. Craving is not the enemy. It's a message from within. Every craving, whether it's for binge eating, endless scrolling, or diving into work, is holding an untranslated message. You don't need to force yourself into quitting right away. The first step is to translate the language of the craving into meaningful words. Jung once wrote, "What you resist persists. What you face begins to dissolve." Practicing inner dialogue. Step-by-step guide. Step 1. Create a sacred space without distractions. Choose a time of day when you won't be disturbed. Evenings before bed are ideal. You don't need an altar, but you do need silence and honesty. Step 2. Write down your most recent craving. No editing. Just write. I just felt the urge to. Where did it come from? What was happening in my body at that moment? Step 3. Give your craving a shape and talk to it. Imagine the craving as a character. What does it look like? A child, an animal, a sorrowful woman? Then write a dialogue as if it's a real person. Example me. Why do you always show up when I'm about to do something important? Craving. Because you're scared. I just want you to feel safe. Me. I feel guilty when I let you lead. Craving. I don't mean harm. I just don't know another way to make you listen. Step 4. End with a symbolic action. Write a closing sentence to your character, or simply place your hand on your heart and whisper, I see you. I won't run anymore. This may seem small, but it is a sacred shift from being a victim of craving to becoming the keeper of the ritual. From the Red Book, Jung's dialogue with Philemon, a symbol of the unconscious wisdom. In the Red Book, Jung didn't just analyze, he lived the process. He described meeting a character named Philemon, a figure representing the deep wisdom within him that no teacher had taught him to hear. Whenever he felt lost, Jung would converse with Philemon, writing questioning, allowing this voice to answer through his own hand beyond logic. You can do the same. Give your inner voice a name. When craving comes, instead of resisting, invite that part in. Sit with it. Ask it questions. You may be surprised to find the addiction is actually a door to an ancient intelligence inside you. Real-life example. Ethan and the child afraid of losing mom. Ethan, a 40-year-old writer, was addicted to rewriting his work, never publishing. He always said, it's not good enough yet, it's not the right time. When he practiced inner dialogue, he imagined that delaying urge as a trembling little boy under the table saying, if they read it and hate it, mom won't love me anymore. He broke down in tears. For the first time, he realized the addiction to delay was actually a childhood cry. And from that moment, he no longer had to force himself to publish. He embraced that frightened part every time it showed up. You don't need to be a good writer or understand all the psychology. You just need the courage to write a short dialogue with your most recent craving even if it's just a few lines. That alone puts you ahead of 99% still running from themselves. Comment below. Have you tried inner dialogue? What does your craving look like? What is it whispering every time it appears? You'll be surprised to see others are hearing the same voice and you are not alone. In the next section, we'll go deeper. We'll go beyond just talking. We'll restructure the ritual, turning craving into fuel for writing, art, and creation. Designing your own ritual whenever the urge arises, and using that very energy to build a new identity. Question for you today. If craving were a person, what would you say to it? Write just the first line of your dialogue below. The law of identity, who you are before what you have. My dear friend, in Jungian psychology, the darkest thing is not failure, but the stagnation of the soul. When you repeat an addictive behavior every day, as if programmed, that's not just a habit, it's a forgotten ritual, a ritual without awareness, without purpose. But if we can bring consciousness to that behavior, if we can transform craving from a captor into a guide, something miraculous begins to happen. Trapped energy becomes creative force. From addiction to ritual. The difference is awareness. Jung once said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. A person addicted to their phone isn't much different from someone practicing meditation if viewed from afar. Both repeat a behavior, but only one does it with awareness. One is escaping, the other is diving inward, designing personalized rituals, turning craving into a creative signal. Craving doesn't need to be banished. It can become a wake-up switch. Here's a 5-step transformation system based on Jung's methods blended with modern ritual. Step 1, link the addictive behavior with an awakening question. Examples before opening social media. Ask, what am I avoiding right now? Before unconscious eating. Whisper, what am I really needing nourishment for? A short question, repeated often enough, can tear through the veil of the unconscious. Step 2, replace the behavior with a small action that releases energy. Craving food. Draw a symbol of the emotion you feel. Craving validation. Write one truth you're afraid to say out loud. Craving escape. Set a 2-minute timer, close your eyes and ask, how much longer can I sit with this discomfort? You don't need to fight the craving, just redirect it into something consciously releasing. Step 3, build a temple for the new behavior. Create a specific space. A desk corner just for truth journaling. A sticky note on the mirror. The craving is not a flaw, it's a signal. Each time a craving comes, instead of falling into the old pattern, walk to your ritual temple and do the new action. Case study craving, raw creation, healing artwork. Sarah, a fashion designer, used to obsessively check old messages every night. She knew it was unhealthy but couldn't stop. After learning ritual design, she began. Every time she wanted to check old messages, she drew the feeling as an abstract symbol. After 30 days, she had an entire collection of symbols. And surprisingly, she turned them into her first fashion collection titled What the Shadow Said. The craving didn't disappear, but it became fuel for creativity. That's the alchemy of the soul. Warning, resistance will come, and it's part of the ritual. Jung once wrote, no tree, it is said, can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell. During this process, you will want to give up, doubt yourself, fall back into old behaviors. Remember, resistance is part of the transformation. Every time you last just 1 minute beyond a craving, you're no longer a victim. You are the firekeeper. Have you ever tried replacing an addictive act with a conscious one? What action made you feel seen instead of pulled? Have you ever had a private ritual that kept you grounded on a hard day? Write it down in the comments. There's no right or wrong, only fellow humans learning to live honestly. You'll be surprised how deep and compassionate this community can be. In the next part, we'll explore your new identity. Not as someone trying to recover, but as someone alchemizing themselves. You'll learn how to build a new identity that doesn't revolve around I'm addicted, how to turn small wins into evidence that rebuilds your self-trust, how to redefine who you are not by your past, but by your power to embrace the present. Question for you today. If craving is energy, what will you use it to create in the next 24 hours? Write down a small commitment. Just one creative act, even if it's only for 5 minutes. You did not come into this world to repeat the wounds of your ancestors. You came to transform, to become the original version of yourself. Carl Jung called this process individuation, the journey of becoming a whole being, not by discarding the darkness, but by embracing every shattered piece and reconciling them in the light of consciousness. If you've walked through addiction, conversed with your cravings, and started building new rituals, now is the moment to step onto the path of becoming your whole self. What is individuation? It's not a destination, not a 7-day course. Individuation is the journey of living true to your essence despite the chaos, fears, and social conditioning. Jung once said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. So where do you begin? Step 1, begin shadow work. Redraw the map of your hidden self. The shadow isn't just sin, it's everything you've once rejected. I'm not allowed to be weak. I'm not allowed to be angry. I'm not allowed to fail. These beliefs push you to live from a constructed self-image. Shadow work is the investigation of the beliefs you've never questioned. Starter exercise. Write down, I never want anyone to know that I once. Observe the feelings that surface. That is the entry point to your shadow. You don't need to heal everything at once. You just need to see it without running away. Step 2, guided journaling. Document the encounter with your inner self. Write not to analyze. Write to extract the soul from the chaos. Each morning or before bed, spend 5-10 minutes writing about an emotion from the day that confused you, a behavior you kept repeating without knowing why, a dream or a fragment of memory that suddenly resurfaced. Journaling helps bridge the unconscious and the conscious. It's the bridge between two worlds. Step 3, dream tracking. The secret language of the unconscious. Jung believed dreams are letters from the soul to consciousness. You don't need to decode them like astrology. Just record them, and slowly symbols will start speaking back to you. Practice. Keep a notebook by your bed. Every morning upon waking, jot down anything you remember. Ask, what is this dream pointing to that I've yet to listen to within? You might start to meet archetypes Jung encountered. The mysterious guide, the lost child, the radiant woman, the locked doors no one can open. These aren't random dreams. They're your personal spiritual map. To begin is an act of rebellion against unconscious habits. You might feel like you're losing it. Society won't encourage you to go this deep. Friends may ask, why are you acting so weird lately? But remember, individuation is a lonely yet honest road. Only you know you're awakening. This path isn't easy, but you don't have to walk it alone. Share in the comments a quote that has anchored you in shadow work, a symbol in a dream that haunts you, a journal entry that made you cry or awaken. Write it below. Someone might be standing where you just walked through, and your words could save them. Example, Daniel and the image of the lion in the glass cage. Daniel, a photographer, always felt he was never good enough. Each time he achieved something, he would doubt himself. In a dream, he saw a giant lion trapped inside a glass cage. People walked past, laughing. After journaling and reflecting, he realized he was the lion, his power trapped inside the perfect self society had imposed. Since then, whenever he's about to judge himself, he closes his eyes and hears the roar inside the cage. Slowly, he's unlocking the door. In the next part, we'll explore the most important truth Jung ever wanted to share with you. You don't need to be perfect to begin. You don't need to be fully healed to be worthy. You deserve the light, even while standing in the dark. Today's question for you is, are you carrying a dream or image you've never dared to speak out loud? Share it as a welcoming gesture to the reunion with your true self. There's a truth you need to know and feel before this video ends. You don't need to be perfect to start living authentically. You don't have to overcome every addiction, heal every wound, or decode every dream to be worthy. You are already worthy even in the shadows. Carl Jung once wrote, I am not what happened to me, I am what I choose to become. What you choose today, even if it's as small as a glance inward, an honest question, or just a moment of stillness, is the seed of a new life. You don't need to escape your cravings to prove your worth. You only need to stop running from yourself. Healing is not about erasing, it's about connecting. What causes most people to turn away from the path of healing is the illusion that we must be completely transformed to deserve the light. But Jung knew the shadow is not a mistake. It's the raw material of light. Each time you speak with your craving, write down your fear, record a dream, you are slowly reweaving your being from the inside out. Your old self may be afraid, but your soul is ready. If you're still here reading these words, you're not just anyone. You are a pilgrim, a courageous soul who has stared into their own abyss and didn't look away. You may still feel unclear, still feel lost. But remember, light doesn't come from finding the way. It comes from your willingness to walk even in the dark. Connect, because this journey is not meant to be walked alone. Beneath this video is a community, a place where people like you souls seeking to understand themselves can meet. Share a symbol from a recent dream that felt strange or haunting, or simply what in this video made you pause and sit in silence. Maybe your comment will be the answer someone else has been searching for years. In the next video, we won't just listen to our inner dialogue. We will learn how to transform the energy of craving into creative force, how to turn pain into material for personal expression. Jung called this the alchemy of the self. Once you stop wanting to escape, you'll see every wound carries its own magic. If you feel touched by this, please subscribe not for algorithms or numbers, but because you are not alone, and your soul deserves to be accompanied, illuminated, and deeply heard.